Hey guys, in this video, I'm gonna show you how to play 3 thrash metal guitar riffs. These riffs are really gonna help you get better at your alternate picking technique for this style of metal music. Alright guys, let's dive right into this metal guitar lesson, but real quick, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and ding the little bell. Now how this will flow is I'll play each riff at normal speed, then I'll slow it down and throw up the guitar tabs for you. And make sure you hang around to the end of the video because I'm actually going to break each riff down into more detail. I've got some more tips that can help you with your alternate picking for this style of music. Now, I want to dig into these riffs just a little more. So there's 3 thrash metal riffs that we learned, and we kind of started out with something a little easier, and then, you know, as you experienced, it got a little bit more complex each riff thereafter. So I want to talk about that first riff we played real quick, this one right here. Now again, this is kind of an easy, I don't want to say it's a beginner's riff, it's, you know, it's almost at the intermediate level. I don't think anything metal is really beginners unless it's like new metal where they're just playing power chords. But, you know, this riff is probably one of the more easier riffs because there's not quite as much movement, but you still have to nail down that alternate picking. So what I do here is I really try to keep my palm kind of lightly muted, not like full on mute like when you're downstroking. So when you're playing downstrokes, you can just do that jun jun jun, just like have a heavy palm on you know, on that bridge there. I don't really have a heavy palm at all on anything, but that's, I know some people palm mute really heavy. When you're alternate picking though, you want to have a little bit lighter touch when your palm's just kind of not barely touching the bridge, but not like full on, if that makes sense. So play around with that. As you're alternate picking, play around with that until it sounds best to your ears. Now here's the second thrash metal riff that you just learned. Now this riff is where things really start to get interesting, and I got a quick story I'll tell you behind the riff, but the technique here is really a roll off. So you're not starting out with that first, that first root note. So you're actually starting out with your finger on that one fret, the second fret, I think it's the D string that we're on, and with the upstroke, you're kind of rolling off, and then you're going back to the downstroke to hit that open note. And this gets really interesting. You kind of have to start out really slow at this and just practice it slowly over and over and gradually build up speed. So that's really my tip on this. You can always go back to, guys, you can always go back to the video. In the description of the video, I'll have the times for each lesson. So just go back there and go to that riff where the tabs start and pause it if you need to, and just practice that really, really slow. Now, here's the interesting story behind that particular riff. It's actually part of a song called Never Enough. And shameless plug here, that's track number 6, I believe, off my album called Masterpiece that I released in September 2019. So definitely check that out. That album is actually on iTunes, Spotify, all the major streaming platforms. I'll give you a link in the YouTube description. You can go to my webpage and it's got a button there for all those sources. I'll also give you a link to the CD, especially if you live in the US, like shipping CDs is like dirt cheap. Anyway, those links are in the YouTube description, so definitely check that out. That will help support me, and I appreciate it. Now, let's talk briefly about that third and final riff, this one right here. Now, I feel like this thrash metal riff is a little bit more complex than the one we just played, because you've got some more movement here, and it's not just the roll off. There's actually a hammer on and pull off, and then you're kind of rolling that finger off to get to that other note on the downstroke, which is the open string that you're going to be alternate picking. So this is kind of combining, many techniques into one riff, which this is what I encourage you guys to always do. The more techniques you can get into your riffs that you're practicing, the better, because then you get really good at not just playing one technique, but being able to transition from one to another very, very quickly. And that's what this riff allows you to do. Now, my tip here, guys, is really the same as the second thrash metal riff that you learn, and that's just to start out slow. I mean, again, if you need to go back and pause the video where the tabs are, of course, there's not too much to memorize here. You might have it down already, but just practice real slow. The real challenge with this riff is after you do that hammer on pull off with that upstroke, is going back to that downstroke and alternate picking that open note there. That's kind of the challenge. Again, just going from one technique to another. So again, just kind of start out slow on that and gradually build your speed up. And another thing, try to develop that mind to muscle connection with your hands. You know what I mean? And I don't really know how to explain this in depth, but really zero in and be focused on your practice when you're especially when you're doing these types of riffs that might involve some more complexity. And really, at the end of the day, it's not that the riff is that hard to play or that complex. To some of you, it might be easy, but to many of you, it's just a simple fact that you may not play this particular style or this particular technique all the time. If you were to go out and do the same thing every single day for 100 days, you become really good at it. You know what I mean? Even if it's something complex, if that's what you're focused on. So this type of riff, if it's difficult, just focus on it, start out slow, gradually build up that speed, and in your practice time, don't let anything interrupt you. That's important as well. So that's just kind of a side note. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, this thrash metal lesson, focusing on alternate picking, and I really do hope this helps you get better at alternate picking with this style of metal music. So guys, leave me any questions in the comments below. You guys know I always try to respond back. And until the next video, as always, keep it metal.